Quetico is classed as a wilderness park, and basically I feel it is.
In fact, Quetico is now wilder than it was when it was first protected over 100 years ago. Of course, it's no surprise though that wild places like Quetico are becoming rarer, and that true wilderness experiences are harder to come by. But this trip actually gave me hope that we still have some left. And by meeting so many like-minded people along the way, I now have faith that there are enough of us who appreciate the value of wilderness areas and are willing to protect them for years to come.
Look at that, all set up.
Wow. Okay, well, let me see. Oh my Lord. Oh, there we are. My Lord, I'm recording now. We're gonna get
okay.
Let's get to business. Whiskey shot. Are you drinking tea?
Oh no, I'm drinking mead in this really sort of cute pottery mug.
What the? Did you? What'd you say?
Mead.
I think you said weed.
Imagine that. No weed here, just mead.
What? So explain that whole. What is that?
I have the bottle right here. So it's a Polish honey wine, and it's very sweet, but it's good for an afternoon chat. However, I did bring my Eiley because it smells like bonfire, and I fly fish, so kind of maybe for later in the evening.
Wow. Okay, I don't know you, but I just got to know you right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing the cheap stuff because I'm getting low, man. I'm gonna have to put the mask on and line up at the store. Like I'm gonna have to do that. Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh, all right. This is exciting. Because two things. One is I don't know who you are, and I'd love to know who you are. And the other is you got a new job, but we'll get to that in a minute. So you love wilderness. You love wilderness traveling. So who, what, where got you in that?
All right. I'm going to say I attribute my love for nature to my parents. They've always taken me away on, I guess, short canoe trips, camping. I've spent countless hours outside. Foraging for mushrooms, collecting berries, swimming in the pond, climbing mountains. I was fortunate enough, I guess, to grow up on a land sort of surrounded by a forest, and that was just our daily life. You go outside and play as long as you can, and I guess like many parents, I romanticize my childhood a lot. And no, but seriously, I guess my parents would be the ones that introduced me to nature, going on fishing, hiking, and yeah, I guess that sort of continued on when I reached my adult life, and I started fly fishing and started chasing trout, and realized soon after that to get into the backcountry, you needed to go on backcountry trips with a canoe. So that's kind of how it evolved. And my parents, when we first moved to Canada, took me on a number of trips. We went to Killarney, Algonquin, the Ottawa Canyon, so they were always eager to spend as much time outdoors as they could. Yeah.
So the rumor has it this is not your first isolation. This whole COVID-19 thing is not your first isolation. So is there a bit of history on that? I heard a rumor.
You heard a rumor?
Yes.
Okay. No, so this would be my second isolation, actually. My first isolation was in April of 1986. And it was the Chernobyl explosion, which was only about 850 kilometers away from where my family lived. And it was a couple days. It actually the actual explosion happened the day before my birthday. But I remember going to school the following morning as, I guess, not being aware of anything. And the following day, when the world found out that there was this nuclear disaster, everyone was asked to stay at home and not to eat leafy vegetables, and to stop drinking milk. So I remember my dad coming home with this huge bag of powdered milk, which was horrible tasting. And I also remember my mom actually going for a walk with me to the local health clinic to get iodine. All the only children were actually allowed to drink it, and it protects your thyroid, protects you from thyroid cancer. But what I remember the most about the story is that my mom told me that if I drink this little capsule without a fuss, I'll get my first bottle of Coca-Cola. And I remember that frosted cold bottle, and I remember drinking it, and I remember it being super fizzy and sweet. And you know, the dangerous situation has been sort of calmed by something as simple as a bottle of Coke.
Wow. Is that what brought your family to Canada then after that, or?
So not really, not quite. It was the political situation in Poland. So at the time, Poland was under communist rule, and my parents made the decision to escape and try a different life somewhere else, to explore other opportunities for themselves and for myself. So yeah.
So was your first canoe trip in Canada, or was it when you were young?
Yeah, so my first canoe trip was in Canada. It was in Killarney, and I remember my dad renting a canoe. I remember us all packing all of our things into the canoe, and not in waterproof bags, of course. And my mom holding on to the gunnels for her dear life as the boat was sort of wobbling. The stability of the canoe, first stability wasn't great. And I remember my dad paddling us on the lake in a very much of a zigzag pattern, which since then I've learned a lot. But I remember looking around and thinking, why is everybody else going in a straight line? And we're just like bouncing from shore to shore. But yeah, we figured it out.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you've progressed, and now you're taking your own kids on canoe trips.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started backcountry tripping. I started backcountry tripping with the kids on canoe trips a few years ago, and always rented a boat. But in the last few years, we actually purchased our own canoe, and we named it Moonshadow.
Whoa, wait. Back up.
I
Why
know.
Moonshadow?
Well, because you're being followed by Moonshadow.
Okay.
I don't know. It was just, there was a number of names on the list. We listened to Cat Stevens. It was a song that everyone enjoyed and loved. And, you know, the idea of being chased by a moon shadow was great. So
boy, was I ever windbound on Sturgeon Lake today. There was no way I was going off that lake. And I'm waiting around, wondering when to go, and it really didn't calm down until about 11:30 at night. But I thought, hey, why not? Let's go for it. And off I went and started paddling across Sturgeon at night. And that was about a couple hours ago. And I gotta say, this is an incredible experience. You know what I'm hearing? Silence. That is a wonderful thing. The best way to go across Sturgeon is at night.
the name stuck. The kids love it. We sing the song when we go on our canoe trips. Actually, our first canoe trip with Moonshadow was in can't remember now, I think it was 2017 or 2016, where there was a full solar eclipse. And I got those solar eclipse glasses so we could look at it. And I remember us paddling with these glasses on, and paddlers sort of asking us, what were you doing? Like, why are you wearing those? And so we ended up sharing our glasses, and they would pass them back and forth just so everyone could see the solar eclipse. So it was almost like a great way to start an adventure with this, boat that we all love. And so we've tripped to, I don't know, Massasauga, we've tripped to Algonquin, to Mogami. We've been on a canoe trip with friends around Philip Edward Island.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was beautiful. The kids absolutely loved it. And it was really nice. It was our first trip where we actually paddled, not just myself, not solo with just the kids, but another family that also enjoys being outdoors. And all the kids were the same ages, so everybody kind of got a chance to play around. And then most recently, we did a trip to Slate Island. On the North Shore of Lake Superior, and our only two things that we wanted to do was catch a lake trout and see caribou.
And
we caught a lake trout, and we saw tracks of a caribou.
Really?
Yeah, so the kids, we noticed it on the beach, and then we decided to go on this wild caribou chase through the forest, trying to see if we could track it down, but our dog wasn't doing us any favors.
Oh, the dog. You had a dog. Okay, because I'm thinking, like, really, like, the caribou will eat out of your hand.
I know. No, they did not like the dog.
Man. Have the canoe trips for your kids, has it molded them, as it created their characters, has it changed their life? Do you really think that it's important?
So I'll touch on maybe the first one. I think that it's been interesting to see how going on these trips, they sort of fell into certain roles based on their personalities. And I guess order of birth too, but my oldest is the one that always sets up camp. He's very particular. He wants the tent and the inside of the tent to be a specific way, and so that's what he does. He's also at the bow of the boat right now, and I think this year would probably be the year that we're gonna either try him in a solo boat, or he's gonna end up driving the boat. I think he's at the age where he could manage that. And then my middle one is obsessed about fishing, so he's our fisherman in the family. And so he sits in the middle, and he is in charge of the rods. So like the lines go down as soon as we can, he reels them in. There's, we talk strategy of what we need to do. He looks at the fish finder, so he's got that. And he pulls his weight if he needs to, if it's really windy and he's got a paddle too. And my youngest, she has the most important job in the boat, and that's making sure that everyone stays hydrated. And she holds the snack bag.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So she's in charge of giving out rations to everyone to make sure that everyone's fed and has enough energy to continue paddling. So, but she likes paddling and fishing, and she has no problems falling asleep in the canoe at any time. So, yeah, she's out first. But do I think that this shapes them? Absolutely. I think, my mission has been really to encourage my kids to explore the wilderness, to be outside, and really in hopes of deepening their love and respect for nature and protecting the environment in the future. So really, I'm trying to mold them to be future stewards. We have such a brief opportunity to create these memories with our kids, and to share our love for the earth with them, that I think that anytime you spend outdoors with them, it really deepens their understanding of what it is that they need to protect, and where they feel safe. And being in nature is being at peace and being in love. And I want them to be able to sort of, I guess, share the same love and passion I have for it, and contribute to it in the future. And that for me, I think that the only way I'm able to do that is by taking them into the wilderness to show them what it is that that I love about it and what we need to do to protect it. So yeah.
So is that why you have a new job? You have a new job. It's exciting.
Yes. So it's a volunteer job, but still a new job. I'm the communications trustee for the Quetico Foundation. Very, very excited. I'm not sure, I guess maybe you can talk a little bit about Quetico Provincial Park. Should I maybe kind of talk a little bit about some of the things? Or?
Yeah, Quetico, like we can talk about Quetico, but basically why did I want to do it?
Really, everything that I just said about my kids. I want them to be able to see their mom protecting something that she loves and she believes in. And Quetico Provincial Park, being one of the largest wilderness parks really in Ontario, it's magical and spectacular, and everyone sees it. I guess I'm going to read something to you.
Oh.
Okay, because when I first got this job, I went to the university library and I was like, I am taking out every single book there is on the Quetico Provincial Park, boundary waters, history of provincial parks, and so I've been reading. But one of the first books I picked up was Quetico, Near to Nature's Heart by John Nelson. And on the first page, he gives an explanation. In 1897, William and Janine Richardson set off on their honeymoon. They traveled by birch bark canoe to the center of Quetico along with their Indian guides. At the conclusion of the 3-week trip, Janine noted, "It was good to be so near to nature's heart, even if for so brief a space." How could you not want to protect that? How could you not want to be part of something as amazing as the nature's heart? I guess, yeah.
I've been helping out the Quetico Foundation for many years for that various reason. And it's not just Quetico. I think Quetico Foundation is there to protect Quetico, but I've talked to many of the directors and stuff like that, or people that go to Quetico, and it's the symbolization that Quetico does, right? So it doesn't matter if it's Quetico or some other wilderness part in Canada or wherever. It's that idea of protecting a wilderness area. That's fantastic. So would you say that that's the main, oh my Lord, it's been a long day. I even wear my hat sideways.
Sideways. But you know, wearing your checkered shirt, like you always, like most of the time you do.
No, I know.
Oh, I called you out on it.
You know why?
Laundry, Kevin. It's in the laundry.
No, I haven't washed it since the pandemic. I got to find it. The main reason I'm not wearing is I just came back from a walk in the woods with my daughter. I've been doing, my daughter's 15. Oh, my dog too. My dog finally got off the leash today after 6 weeks of on the leash. And we went off and we went bushwhacking in the woods, and we went wildflower identifying. And she needed some time in the woods. She really did. And so 3 times a week, I'm taking her for a walk in the woods. And she's like, well, I got to do my studies, online studies. I went, yeah, you don't. No, you don't. Let's forget about that now. Like it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
So, I just got back, and I don't know where my jacket is, but I haven't washed it. It's become my house coat. But where are we? All right. What's the history of if nobody knows, the history of the Quetico Foundation?
So I know just a little bit, but because you are a board member and you have been for a little while, I'm sure that you can fill in some of those gaps. Quetico Foundation came into being in 1954 with encouragement and support from the Quetico Superior Foundation. So we've been around for 66 years and trying to educate the public and work collaboratively with the Ontario government and other organizations to try and protect the vast wilderness.
So is that different than like Friends of Algonquin, Friends of Killarney, Friends of Quetico? Is the Quetico Foundation different than that?
I think that any foundation was really different from any group that's friends of, right? So both Friends of Quetico and Quetico Foundation, you know, we are raising money to support programs and services for the park, but the Friends group would primarily do things. They would fundraise through, say, book sales or bake sales, trying to come up with special events, maybe membership fees. So they would that would be sort of the way that they would raise their money, whereas a foundation raises their money through appeals, right? So major gifts to the foundation, grants from the government, individual donors, corporate sponsors. So the gifts are quite larger, but both groups work very collaboratively together to try and come up with you know, solutions for some of the services that we want to offer. I know that currently, actually, the two groups we're working together in coming up with a display for the visitor center on the red pine forest and the Quetico fires and the importance of it. So we're sort of working together, and we've put money together to come up with this display so that when people come to the visitor center, they can learn about the importance of forest fires and you know, educate everyone through like a visual display. So again, working together on something that will help.
So do you know about Shane Walsh story about that?
No.
Okay, that's a great story.
What you see around me is a whole pile of fireweed, all the purple plants. They're beautiful. They only grow after a fire, hence the name fireweed. And what they do is they enhance the nutrients of the soil and start the whole forest again to rejuvenate itself. This is Shanwalt's Lake. It was named that in 1991, the same year that he died. He was a naturalist here in the park for many years, well respected. He was actually called the Conscience of Quetico. And I met him once, years ago. I just graduated from college back in the 80s. And I went to the campground just to go camping. And I was identifying the wildflowers that I thought I knew after 2 years of college. And he stopped by and he gave me a hand. I didn't know who he was. He was just this man that was helped me identify the wildflowers. And that man taught me more in a half hour than I had learned in 2 years of college. He was very humble. He knew the park really well, and he preferred actually being out here in the interior than behind the desk. And he was well known for that. And I think it's wonderful that they named this lake after him. Why? It's because he actually preferred this lake because of the white pine. Just last year, a lightning strike hit this area and started a fire. And these 300, 400-year-old pine that he was in love with, majority of them burned. Now you might think that's a terrible thing, but he really wasn't in love with the trees. He was in love with the ecology of the trees, the old growth forest. And for that old growth forest to continue, you have to have it burn. And it doesn't look like much now, but it will, and it actually represents the future of this forest. And he would have preferred that. In fact, some say that his ghost is here, and he's the one that lit the fire.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. There's a lot of things that the Quetico Foundation has done. Can you mention some of them?
Yeah, so some of them I have my list here so that I can sort of refer and fact check with, but I know that we've helped with the initiative of the John B. Ridley Research Library. So I know it's a huge collection of books.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing place. It's like you go in there.
So you've been.
Church. It's amazing. Sorry.
So you've actually, I haven't actually been there, so I haven't seen it, but yeah. So I know that there's a lot of research projects that are being funded through the foundation. We've done some of the research projects have been on acoustic bats, the fire survey, as we've sort of mentioned. There's been songbirds, there's been invertebrate studies as well. So we're funding all of these projects, and all of these are, again, being kept at the library. We have the Artist in Residence program as well, which is a cabin out at the park, and each year an artist can apply to spend 2 weeks at the cabin, where they can sort of get inspired by the scenery around it and continue on the Canadian legacy of art and wilderness in the park. And we've also collaborated and helped with the creation of the Heart of the Continent partnership. So it was 25 Canadian and US stakeholders that got together to try and protect the Quetico Superior Wilderness. Yeah, I can go on.
Yeah,
I can go on.
Yeah, they do a lot, and they're doing it for how long have they been doing it? What's the year that the foundation started? I forget, actually.
1954, so it's been 66 years.
Good Lord!
Yeah, so quite a long time.
Wow. Okay. Gosh. It was Becky Mason that got me started, by the way. She said, "Hey," and she's on board too. And then she goes, "Hey, Kevin should join." And it's like, oh, gee. I love Quetico, so there was no second guess about that.
Hi, fellas. Hey. Nice portage, eh? Hey. I got your boat here if you want to rescue yourself. Oh, thanks.
I think it's pretty neat to get out into the wilderness and do this sort of thing. The kids are enjoying it. I think they're into the spirit of it. We see more and more people up north, more development. And preserving a place like this really allows us all to have that experience, that contact with nature that it's slipping away from us in modern day society. These kids could be at home playing Nintendo or doing whatever, and they all say, after the trips, they say, you know what, that's what I wanted to be doing. And my friends, they're getting cheated by not having this. So Quetico, in the preservation of places like this, we can enjoy them now. I hope my kids will be able to enjoy them as well, and it's of the utmost importance. I tell these guys at the end of every year at camp, there's a quote I really love, and I think it sums up the importance of Quetico and these experiences. It's a Henry David Thoreau quote from Walden. "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, find that I had not lived."
All right. Wow. You know what? You just answered a whole bunch of questions I had listed. If nobody's ever noticed, I don't keep the script, but on this one I tried to. I actually was looking over many times while you were talking.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell myself, keep the script, but I'm not. But that's all right.
That's okay.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, yeah. Quetico is a kind of a different park in Ontario. It's a wilderness classification. There's 6 classifications of parks. And Quetico is different because it's wilderness. Do you know what that means?
I Googled it.
Okay.
Did you want me to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I think you should. I gotta find my jacket. Read that. Oh,
all right.
Lord.
You go looking. Wilderness class parks, there are large areas left to nature where visitors may visit on foot or by canoe, offering little, if any, facilities to visitors. And these areas provide the solitude of an undisturbed natural setting. Oh, look at that. Nice. That looks great. Happy camper.
Okay.
I want one of those hats.
There's not many left.
I'm gonna have to make some. Maybe I'll come up with like Quetico hats. I haven't actually seen Quetico Foundation hats. Maybe that would be a good one for me to have. Yes,
you're a deep thinker and you're a progressing person. I'm glad you took the job.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, it was exhausting walking the woods today with my daughter. All right, did you define it?
I did. You didn't hear it.
No, but I can actually say my studies, a wilderness classification park is where we travel by non-mechanized means.
That's
A
right.
wilderness park in Ontario has to be a certain size.
The one thing about Quetico is you can portage anywhere you want. Anywhere. Somewhere. I have no clue where I am. I had this idea going into this little lake and making my own trail, which is a Quetico thing. But where the lake is. This is great.
It can't be a small little piece. And I know that Quetico only allows a certain amount of people in. So when you go to an access point, they say, okay, you're allowed in, and then they stop. Before you go in too, they have to educate you, and you have to watch a video, I think still now, on be ethical out there. And I do remember one time that was amazing when bears became a problem. They closed the area for human beings to go into. So therefore, instead of getting rid of the bear and shooting the bear, they got rid of the human issues, and until the bear didn't get used to that. So it's a totally different concept. The portages aren't marked. The campsites aren't marked, even though they're relatively easy to find. But it's not Algonquin. It's not Killarney at all. It's not even Mogami. And some people are afraid to go in. But I'm not saying Quetico is true wilderness, because true wilderness is a park that we don't tell anybody about, right? I mean, everybody knows about it. It's on the map, but it's more than Algonquin. And I would even say for canoe tripping, like I love Algonquin because I go there all the time, but for canoe tripping, Quetico is far better than Algonquin.
I try to explain it, but nobody will understand like exactly how I feel about Quetico and being here and canoeing and portaging.
Without experiencing it yourself, you really can't get the flavor, the true flavor and the beauty and wonder of Quetico without being here yourself.
This place is so unique in the whole world.
I can get tears in my eyes when I hear other people talk about Quetico and say, come to Quetico because I love it.
When I first came here, we lived down in Illinois where there isn't anything like this at all. And coming here was just magical. There was nothing like it that I've ever seen. And since then, I've grown up and been to all the different continents and everything like that, but it's still a beautiful, unique place that's really been unspoiled, and there's not a lot of other places you can say are virtually unchanged.
This is so beautiful that when you get home, like, it smells bad, and you're like, oh, I just want to go back to Quetico because it's nice there. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how that is, like the difference before and after.
So yeah, it's a totally different area. So the whole idea about that being a different park, is there any future of the Quetico Foundation? Do they sort of sit together and say, okay, well, we've done a whole bunch of things over the past, but now in the next 20 years or 5 years or 10 years, we're going to switch it up and do something else?
I think that with the COVID-19 situation, I think that a lot, not just Quetico Foundation, but I think a lot of charities are going to sort of sit back and try and maneuver through this. I know that we have a very strong board, and I know that we have certain plans of some of the things that we want to accomplish in the near future. So I think you'll be hearing from us very soon. But in the meantime, I think what I want to say is I really encourage people to go to our website and make a donation, whatever you can, to help and support these amazing programs that we are offering. I know that, this year in particular, the Artist in Residence program will probably not run due to COVID, and we also had a group that we helped sponsor the Project Canoe to come into Quetico Park, but that's also been postponed due to COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love Project Canoe.
I know. So I think that I think this whole situation is going to sort of have everyone sort of reimagine the way that we do things daily and some of the things that we want to accomplish.
Do you think of your past experiences in life, of paddling, isolation, raising children, introducing them to wilderness, or reconnecting them to the nature? And yes, it has to do with the Quetico Foundation, but really not. Do you actually think that we're learning from this? Do you actually think we're going to come out of this whole COVID thing? The majority of us, not all of us, the majority of us will learn that actually nature is so much more important. Wilderness is so much more important. Wilderness tripping in places like Quetico is so much more important than ever before.
I hope so, don't you?
I do hope so, but do you think that we will?
I think that will always be people that love wild things more than others, and I hope that this will really have us sit down and reevaluate what our priorities are in life, and that we do want to spend time outdoors. I mean, one glimmer of hope is I just read an article, or an opinion piece actually, at the Globe and Mail, saying that there's been a lot more inquiries to Birds Canada to sort of find out of, like, you know, what kind of birds are coming to my bird feeder, because people being isolated and having to stay at home are trying to watch nature from in their backyard or from their window. And I guess they're maybe subconsciously, not even knowing, but they're reaching out to nature to heal themselves, right? You're starting to watch the birds, you're noticing the amount of rainfall, you're noticing the leaves and flowers blooming. So I think that we're all starting to pay attention to things that are happening around us that we never had the opportunity to, or maybe not never, but rare opportunities to make time for. So I think that it is. I think that people will want to continue that. And I hope more people than less.
Well, to end this whole thing then, do you think that organizations like Quetico Foundation or whatever are more important than ever?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that organizations of foundation, environmental agencies like these are giving opportunities to children and adults, artists, researchers, the opportunity to figure out a way to protect and conserve what we have right now. My daughter asked me actually just last night and said to me, she said, "Do you think that there is going to be a world after this?" And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And she says, "Well, everyone's destroying the earth. Do you think that when this is all done and when I have my kids, that they'll have things that I've had?" And I mean, she's 10. Big thinker, I guess. But I said, yeah, like there has to be a world out there for us to explore and, you know, feel the grass under our feet and being able to go for a paddle and feel the tug of the fish on the line and breathe fresh air. So yeah, I think more than ever, these agencies are going to be there to help and support these programs that are going to help enable maybe more protective acts towards nature and wilderness.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow, you made my day. Well, okay, more important, and we'll finish this off with the cheers.
All right.
Why is your hair better than mine? I mean,
oh,
have you been sneaking out going to the hairdresser? Because, like, look at me. I have.
No. I've made sure to sit somewhere where there's quite a bit of sunshine coming, so that you're focusing on the ends and not the top part of it. I have no idea. I don't know. It's just how it looks. I washed my hair this morning. Did you wash your hair this morning, Kevin?
I don't remember. It's a pandemic.
There you go. I made sure, as I woke up this morning and my phone alerted me and it said, meeting with Kevin Callan today. And I thought, okay, I need to shower. I need to wash my hair. This isn't one of those Zoom calls with work where you can just be like up in a ponytail and get down to the nitty gritty of.
Yeah, no, I'm not wearing truck pants. Like,
oh,
yeah. All right, cheers. Fantastic conversation. Good luck with your new position, and also good luck to the Quetico Foundation. They do amazing work. Love them. I've been helping with them for many, many years, and it's all Becky Mason's fault.
There you go, to Becky Mason's fault. Okay. And to all the foundations doing all this amazing work.
Excellent.
It's such a great contrast to come to a place where you can just breathe the air and drink the water and there's no noise.
This is where we come from.
Didn't have that before. Did not have that.
It's weird not having anyone around except for yourself, like being able to scream and no one will hear you.
being surrounded constantly with buildings and smog and noise. I think it's the silence of it that's so extraordinary.
It's such a great contrast to come to a place where you can just breathe the air and drink the water and there's no noise.
I just love being out in the woods. I love being away from people. I love the quiet. It's a wonderful experience.
You know, the first night I was out in the wilderness, I was having hallucinations. I was hearing police sirens and all the noises of the city. And there was no man-made noise, and that for me was just overwhelming.